We previously showed how The Matrix is a chop-sucky sci-fi movie littered with philosophical, theistic, and spiritual themes. We also showed how the movie adopts a visual style akin to comics, cyberpunk, and Japanese anime. It is no surprise then that the second part of the trilogy contains more thought-provoking themes in its plot, with one of its main focuses being on the idea of determinism, particularly cause and effect, and whether we have free will and choice. So let us dive into the second installment and break down what makes it so interesting. Just worth noting that at this point, the audience still thinks that Neo is the one, and in the first third of the film, he gets treated as a messianic, Christ-like figure, as people beg miracles of him and shower him with gifts. We also note that the villain from the first one, Agent Smith, miraculously makes a return in this installment, but is somewhat alarmingly different. Agent Smith. From the first film, we know that Agent Smith was a Sentinel program who shows hints of a human spirit unlike the other programs, making Smith unique. The third film suggests that some level of spirituality is also present in the other sentient machines, but this will be covered in the next part. Agent Smith also conveys a sort of nihilism when reflecting on the existence of humans.
I like to share a revelation that I've had during my time here. It came to me when I tried to classify your species. I realized that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply, and multiply until every natural resource is consumed. And the only way you can survive is to spread to another area. There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
So it is ironic then that when he returns, he ends up making copies of himself, much like the virus he previously thought humans were. When he appears in the belly brawl scene, we learn that Smith mistakenly thinks he is free, to only then reaffirm that no one is free, as we all have some sort of telos, which means ultimate objective or natural aim. Hence the segment where he talks about how purpose unifies and drives everything.
But, as you well know, appearances can be deceiving, which brings me back to the reason why we're here. We're not here because we're free. We're here because we're not free. There's no escaping reason, no denying purpose, because as we both know, without purpose, we would not exist.
It is purpose that created us. Purpose that connects us. Purpose that pulls us, that guides us, that drives us. It is purpose that defines. Purpose that binds us.
We are here because of you, Mr. Anderson. We're here to take from you what you tried to take from us. Purpose.
Neo and Smith both evolve in interesting ways that show that they are in fact somewhat intertwined. Neo's development here is his descent from the messianic figure that the Zionites treat him as, and how he and the crew deal with the truth of the situation that they learn towards the end, that the prophecy Morpheus dogmatically believed in is not true.
Zion will be destroyed.
What?
How do you know that?
I was told it would happen.
By whom?
It doesn't matter. I believed him.
That's impossible. The prophecy tells us.
It was a lie, Morpheus. The prophecy was a lie. The one was never meant to end anything. It was all another system of control.
I don't believe that.
But you said it yourself. How can the prophecy be true if the war isn't over? I have dreamed a dream. But now that dream is gone from me.
As for Smith's evolution, it is the ascent from demonic to human. He's able to briefly experience what it is physically like being human after copying himself onto Bane, As Smith absorbs other people and programs in the Matrix, he becomes stronger and acquires their abilities and perspectives, which in the third film leads to his downfall, but more on that in the third part. In the second movie, Smith is no longer bound by the purposes of a Sentinel program, hence why he hands over his earpiece and is able to act freely through his own volition. But as the third film confirms, he was never really free at all. Smith also now has the ability to make the Matrix more wieldy to himself, as some part or code of Neo was imprinted onto himself following his destruction in the first movie. Smith's ability to copy himself over everything in the Matrix puts humanity, machines, and the Matrix at peril. The film also shows subtle biblical references when focusing on Neo and Smith. Neo is treated as a Christ-like figure, and for the sharp-eyed among you, Smith's number plate in a car he drives in the second movie refers to Isaiah 54:16, which reads, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have the waster to destroy." The film is littered with biblical references, but these will be focused in part 3. Both Neo and Smith are opposites that are needed to balance a key equation for the Matrix, as the Oracle later mentions. Morpheus. Morpheus, for the first 3/4 of the film, is still dogmatic about the prophecy regarding the One, or Neo. We see how he is at peace with his dogmatism as he deflects and is immune to the criticisms and doubt voiced by other leaders of Zion, hence his dialogues with Locke.
So you admit to a direct contravention of your duty?
Commander, we need a presence inside the Matrix to await contact from the Oracle.
I don't want to hear that shit. I don't care about oracles or prophecies or messiahs. I care about one thing: stopping that army from destroying this city. And to do that, I need soldiers to obey my orders.
With all due respect, Commander, there is only one way to save our city.
How?
Neo.
God damn it, Morpheus. Not everyone believes what you believe.
My beliefs do not require them to.
We see the juxtaposition of bureaucracy and the prophetic man.
That's how it is with people. Nobody cares how it works as long as it works. I like it down here. I like to be reminded this city survives because of these machines. These machines are keeping us alive while other machines are coming to kill us. Interesting, isn't it? Power to give life, and the power to end it. We have the same.
In one of the scenes where Neo meets with the counselor, we get to see a discussion that touches upon the philosophy of Heidegger's, particularly his critique on technology, which was to alert us to the notion that we must deploy instruments and technology in a way in which it serves human ends and purposes, without idolizing the machines and its technicalities, as that would lead to our downfall. If you recall, in the Animatrix, which is a compilation of CGI and anime short stories tied into the Matrix timeline, we get to see how the machines had a pure and uncorrupted human spirit at first, but it was human vanity and corruption that paved the way for a war with the machines. This is why Neo sees the machines as pure light in the third film, evidencing a spirituality present inside the sentient machines. The Animatrix also establishes that machines were in fact endowed with the spirit of man at the beginning. But going back to this discussion, the scene shows a deep consideration of how dependent we are on machines, and how they can be both good and bad for us based on the heart and intent of man, showing how it is intrinsically linked. No surprise in today's world, where we see how technology is used for unethical, unjust, militaristic, and selfish or destructive reasons. The counselor, much like Heidegger, expresses concern about how humans and nature can become devalued by the emergence of technology, as people might want to master or assert their will on technology instead of striving to understand it. An example Heidegger gives is how agriculture has now turned into a mechanized food industry where we see nature as quantifiable resources for technology. It is constricting our view of nature and how things are. However, the central and most interesting theme in the second installment in The Matrix is the dispute between determinism, and by that I mean cause and effect, and free choice. After the introduction to the film, we see Neo dreaming about Trinity's death. We see what is about to happen later on in the film as it's foreshadowed. The audience and Neo is wondering if this is her fate.
Why don't you come and have a sit this time?
Maybe I'll stand.
Well, suit yourself.
I felt like sitting.
I know. So, candy?
You already know if I'm going to take it?
Wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't.
But if you already know, how can I make a choice?
Because you didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it.
As per the meeting with the Oracle, the film conveys the idea and a sense of skepticism regarding this dilemma, that your choices have already been determined. What remains is you understanding why you chose what you chose. To what extent are you free and in control of your destiny? The Oracle is an interesting character in that although she is a machine program who was purposely built to understand the human psyche, she was able to intuit that the future must be one that revolves around the machines and humans getting there together. She is a machine program that is aware of the interdependency between the two. Merovingian. The name Merovingian is a lineage of kings, descendants of Christ. The Merovingian is a very old program that is interesting in that he is the digital personification of all forms of indulgence and vice. He's a program that absolutely believes in causality or the deterministic cause and effect school of thought. He thinks he understands the system completely because of this. He asserts that choice is an illusion created by those with power to continue their exploitative ways and those without to justify their suffering and give themselves a false sense of hope.
Everything begins with choice.
No, wrong. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
The film vulgarly displays this by showing a woman eating a cake programmed to make her extremely aroused. It is because of this that the Merovingian is able to get a blowjob from her after concluding his discussion with Morpheus and the crew. But to summarize Merovingian's point of view without being too vulgar, if all decisions are predetermined by us and are made already, then how can we say we really have a choice in the matter? The real power, according to Merovingian, comes from the why behind those decisions. Why is the real source of power? And because Morpheus makes a request without a why, the Merovingian does not feel obliged to help, as he feels it's not mutually beneficial to him. The idea of choice is something that is not compatible with cause and effect. Some commentators have described the Merovingian outlook as a critique of male aggressive technological power, the idea that you understand nature via causality, and by doing so you become powerful. He is an archetype of power and is in love with it and wants to know the whys and how to control and exert things. The Merovingian is portrayed like a disassociative mad scientist. Some commentators see it as the feminist view of male power gone mad, but once again, the Merovingian as a program demonstrates that he too has a spirit. Perhaps programs in the Matrix have a spirit as well. Merovingian is not the only program to show hints of this though. The human spirit is also demonstrated in Persephone, Merovingian's wife, whom feeds off human emotions, hence her desire to get kissed by Neo as if she was Trinity, to feel passion and love she once had with Merovingian. But the feminist critique really comes from Persephone when she gives Merovingian a slice of humble pie with his own philosophy he adamantly lives by.
Oh, God, my God, Persephone, how could you do this? You betray me. Putain de bordel de saloperie de couille de merde.
Cause and effect, my love.
Cause? There is no cause for this. What cause?
What cause? How about the lipstick you're still wearing?
Lipstick? Lipstick? What craziness are you talking about, woman? There is no lipstick.
She wasn't kissing your face, my love.
Yeah, woman, but this is nothing. C'est rien du tout. It is a game. It is only a game.
So is this. Have fun.
It was a comedic way of showing him the downside of the game he firmly believes in, by making him a victim of it, by surprisingly betraying him in the way she does in the film. The Architect. When Neo meets the Architect by going to the source, we learn many things regarding the Matrix and who Neo actually is. Once Neo enters, we see a room with many screens. If you recall from the first film, there is a scene where we see the same screens prior to Neo being interviewed by the Sentinels. This shows that perhaps the architect was keeping an eye on things even in the first film. As the scene develops and transitions, we see previous versions of Neo in the screens as well, all having different temperaments. Why? Because we learn that Neo is in fact the 6th version of the anomaly, and that there have been 6 matrices created in total. The architect explains that the first version of the matrix was created perfectly, but it failed as it was too perfect for us humans. He subsequently created a matrix that had the imperfections that define organisms like humans, whom also have choice. The subsequent versions was also based on human history to reflect the varying grotesqueries of human nature, hence the images of past events flickering on the screens, as the architect explains. But it still failed, hence the creation of the Oracle, who came up with the solution for making the matrix work in 99% of test subjects, providing that the participants were given a choice to be in the matrix even if they were merely aware of it at a subconscious level. The Oracle and the architect are key figures in the creation, recreation, and continuation of the matrix. The Oracle, although a program, is the feminine intuition of the system created to observe and understand the human psyche in order to come up with a solution to the failed attempts by the architect to create a workable matrix. The architect shows how a pure and perfectly mathematical mind cannot be tasked with making a workable matrix, as it eliminated the other dimensions of human existence. But anyways, despite the 99% success rate, subsequent versions were still flawed, as it allowed the anomaly, aka Neo, to emerge, which would eventually threaten the system if the anomaly and the small minority that rejected the program were left unchecked. The anomaly is a remainder of an imbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the matrix. The architect is unable to eliminate the anomaly from the matrix, otherwise it would have been, I quote, a harmony of mathematical precision. The architect tells Neo that in order for the matrix to be reloaded, he needs to return to the source, allowing temporary dissemination of the code he carries, reinserting it into the prime program, after which he is to select 23 individuals, 16 females and 7 males, to rebuild Zion. Failure to comply will result in a system crash, killing everyone connected to the matrix and thus wiping out the human race. The architect notes that the 5 predecessors to Neo had a profound attachment to their species and decided to rebuild Zion. Neo is given a choice, with each door representing either options. Either choose humanity or Trinity and the extinction of the human race. This will be because of the system crash and the destruction of Zion by the machines. Much to our surprise, we find that the Christ-like Messianic figure decided to break the mold and chose Trinity instead of humanity. Neo did not recycle like the previous 5 ones did, and he decided to abandon the prophetic role and save his love, even if it meant risking the human species. So now Neo has to figure out how to bring about the salvation of his species, even though he chose to rescue Trinity at the expense of humanity. A very risky decision indeed, given that he does not know at that point how to do that. So The Matrix Reloaded is a film that explores questions regarding determinism and free will. Do we have a choice to make alternate possibilities, or are we choiceless and bound by cause and effect? The third film sort of gives a semi-answer to this, but it's still no concrete answers are given. But The Matrix Reloaded is a film that shows human spirit among the Matrix programs and the machines themselves, offering some hope that there is some interdependency and a possibility for coexisting there. Anyways, that wraps up my favourite deep aspects of the movie. Ardent fans will know that there is plenty more that I've missed, but that is all I wanted to discuss and could fit in this segment. So let me know what you think, and feel free to start up a discussion on other aspects you enjoyed that I may have not included here. But until then, we'll be wrapping up the rest of the trilogy in a third and final video. Be seeing you soon!
I'm in.